Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into some fascinating behind-the-scenes stuff, looking at the high-stakes game of political strategy inside one of the major parties. There's this palpable anxiety, maybe even desperation, to stop what some folks see as, well, a potential train wreck. And it all revolves around one very controversial figure who seems to be eyeing a comeback. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're diving deep into the serious concerns within the Republican Party about Doug Mastriano possibly running for governor again in Pennsylvania. And this isn't just some local issue. It can really shake things up nationally.
Yeah, so for this deep dive, we're really leaning on a recent Politico article. The headline kind of says it all. Trump's team is very concerned Mastriano could jeopardize Pennsylvania congressional races. So our goal here is to figure out why this one potential candidate is causing so much, heartburn. We'll look at the history, the context, and crucially, what it could mean for those really important down-ballot races, especially control of the House. So Doug Mastriano, he's a state senator, often called a far-right firebrand.
And he's teasing a run against the current Democrats Governor Josh Shapiro. And just the idea of this is setting off alarms big time within the GOP establishment. The main worry, according to Politico, is that Donald Trump's own advisors are privately freaking out a bit. They fear Mastriano wouldn't just lose the governor's race again, but could actually, quote, drag down the GOP ticket in the midterms next year. What does drag down really mean in this context? How bad could it be?
Well, that's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's definitely about more than just the governor's office itself. The article actually quotes someone close to Trump's political team, anonymously, of course, like 3 others they spoke to, who put it pretty bluntly. They said the president's team is very concerned that a Mastriano campaign could jeopardize or add to the jeopardization of multiple down-ballot congressional races. So it's not just about Mastriano winning or losing, it's about the coattails or lack thereof. If he performs poorly statewide, does that turn off moderate voters who then just, vote against Republicans all the way down the ticket, especially in those super tight House races? That's the ripple effect they're worried sick about.
Right, the ripple effect. And to really get why they're so worried, we need to rewind just a bit to 2022. It wasn't that long ago, but it's clearly casting a long shadow. Mastriano lost that governor's race, and not by a little. It was, a 15-point margin? Pretty huge. So how are Republicans connecting that loss to other races back then? And how is that feeding the fear about these House seats now?
Oh, it's a direct connection in their minds. They absolutely blame Mastriano's presence at the top of the ticket for costing them not just the governorship, but also a key Senate race, several House seats, and even control of a state legislative chamber back in 22. It was seen as a sort of drag across the board. So fast forward to now, you've got potentially, 4 GOP-held House seats in Pennsylvania considered competitive in play, and the party leadership genuinely believes that having Mastriano's name up top again would seriously threaten their ability to hold on to their, let's face it, razor-thin majority in the House.
4 seats could easily flip control.
Exactly. It's that critical. And it's not just whispers. There's a Pennsylvania GOP consultant, Josh Novotny, quoted in the article. He didn't pull any punches. He said, and I quote, "If as our nominee, we lose 4 House seats, he's a nightmare that no one wants."
Wow. Nightmare. That's strong language. Really shows the level of alarm.
It certainly does.
Okay, but here's the twist. Despite all this high-level panic from the party folks, even from Trump's own advisors, apparently, Mastriano himself, he seems totally unfazed. Politico reached out and he basically dismissed it, saying the publication is, quote, not letting facts getting sick in the way of a good story. And then he adds this kicker. "I can tell you that I have President Trump's direct line, and he ain't saying this."
That's quite a claim. Directly challenging those anonymous sources close to Trump.
Right. So how does he maintain this apparent strength, this confidence, especially with his base, when the establishment is so clearly worried? Is there something backing this up, like data?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. And Politico dug up something quite surprising here. It points to that potential disconnect, between the party insiders and the primary voters. They got their hands on a private poll, public policy polling from May, and it surveyed likely Republican primary voters. And get this. It showed Mastriano leading the state treasurer, Stacey Garrity, by 21 points. 21.
21 points.
Yeah.
Against Garrity, who's seen as the establishment's likely pick.
Exactly. Garrity is the one many in the party establishment would likely prefer. So that poll, even if it's just one poll, suggests Mastriano still has a really strong hold on, what the article terms Maggia voters. That core base. It certainly helps explain his confidence, doesn't it? Despite all the hand-wringing from the top.
It absolutely does. So, okay, this polling strength, even with the establishment worries, is now forcing their hand, right? It's springing national and Pennsylvania Republicans into action to try and block him. They're not just worrying, they're strategizing.
Okay.
And part of that strategy, it seems, is wishful thinking. Some state operatives are apparently hoping Trump himself will step in and back Garrity to stop Mastriano before he even gets the nomination.
Right. They're hoping Trump puts his thumb on the scale.
How does that fit with Trump's overall approach? Is he usually this hands-on with candidate selection?
Oh, definitely. The article points out he's intently focused on maintaining GOP control of Congress. This isn't unusual for him at all. He's apparently been quite involved, gone to great lengths to steer candidates in various races, coming some to run, some not to run, even pushing for redistricting in places like Texas to help Republicans. So his team being worried about Pennsylvania fits that larger pattern. It's about protecting the potential majority.
Okay, so what's the thinking on Garrity specifically from Trump's circle? Is it just about stopping Mastriano, or do they think she can actually win?
Well, it sounds quite pragmatic, actually. A Pennsylvania Republican strategist, familiar with the thinking, basically laid it out for Politico. The view seems to be, and I'm paraphrasing here slightly, look, maybe Garrity doesn't ultimately win against Shapiro, but she'll run a solid, competent race. She won't crater. And crucially, she'll help us down ballot. We just can't afford to get blown out at the top of the ticket again, and Stacey is a good campaigner. So it's damage control, almost, ensuring the top of the ticket isn't a liability for those vital House races.
That makes a lot of sense. Damage limitation. And it sounds like the state GOP is trying hard not to repeat 2022. How are they planning to rally around someone like Garrity this time? What's different?
Yeah, they seem very determined to learn from past mistakes. The report says Pennsylvania GOP leaders are quietly making plans to quickly unite around Garrity pretty much as soon as she announces. The idea is to back a challenger to Governor Shapiro maybe as early as September, and Garrity seems to be the consensus pick for that unity push.
A coordinated effort this time.
Exactly. They're looking back at the 2024 cycle where the state party did back preferred primary candidates, and they think that contributed to some successes. It's a big contrast to 2022, remember, when the party didn't endorse anyone in the governor's primary. Some now see that as a huge error, basically letting Mastriano walk away with the nomination without organized party opposition.
Okay, let's talk about Mastriano's appeal versus his, well, general election problem. We know how he built his following, right?
Yeah.
Leading the charge to overturn the 2020 election in PA, his very strong stance on abortion, no exceptions. Plus, he's good at social media, those Facebook live streams. He connects directly with his base.
He does. He built a very dedicated following that way.
But that same hardline political brand, as Politico calls it, highlighted by things like being at the Capitol on January 6th, that's what seems to turn off the swing voters, the independents you need to win statewide.
That's the core tension, absolutely. What fires up the base in a primary can be toxic in a general election, especially in a swing state like Pennsylvania. David Urban, who used to be a Singer Trump advisor and helped run the 2016 campaign there, put it quite well in the article. He said something like, Mastriano's a nice guy, veteran, great for his district, but crucially, he just doesn't have statewide appeal, and that will be a big problem for the down-ballot races across the state.
Great for his district, but not the whole state. That sums it up.
Pretty much. It highlights the difference between appealing to a concentrated base versus a broad electorate.
And Mastriano seems aware of this whole dynamic, this pushback. In a recent radio interview, he said he's basically launched an exploratory committee for governor. He emphasized his team is still in place across all 67 counties, standing by. And he definitely signaled he expects a fight from the establishment. He warned, they're not going to clear the field of me. He even talked about playing the game for the last couple of years, which sounds like a reference to him backing Dave McCormick for Senate instead of running himself, and now he wants something out of it. And that something, he suggests, will probably be perhaps my candidacy. Does that sound like someone who feels it's his turn, regardless of the party's worries?
It absolutely does. It sounds like someone who feels they've waited, played ball, and now expects the nomination, maybe sees it as owed to him. And you have to remember, the article also mentions Trump himself has apparently expressed regret over endorsing Mastriano back in the 2022 primary.
Right. I remember reading that. Why the regret?
A big part seems to be the campaign Mastriano actually ran. He raised very little money, aired almost no TV ads. Politico calls that an unheard of approach for a major party nominee in a huge swing state like Pennsylvania.
Unheard of, yeah. You can't win statewide like that, usually.
Right. So even if the base loves the candidate, you need the resources, the strategy, the broader appeal for a general election campaign. And maybe Trump's team saw that lacking last time and fears a repeat.
Which brings us back to the stakes for you, the listener. Because these internal party fights, they really do affect who ends up representing you in Congress. A strong candidate at the top can lift others. A weak one can sink them, potentially changing who controls Congress. Now, Garrity's supporters, the establishment choice, they're putting on a brave face. They think she can beat Mastriano in a primary. They point to her conservative roots, her bio as a veteran, a business leader.
Yeah, some apparently even doubt Mastriano will actually go through with running.
What's the general vibe from her camp? And maybe more interestingly, how are the Democrats watching all this unfold?
Well, Garrity's advisor, John Brabender, who's a well-known GOP strategist, projected that confidence. He told Politico, essentially, people are smart, they want to win, they want to beat Shapiro, they'll see Garrity as substantive, and the party will unify around her. So that's the hope from their side, that pragmatism and the desire to win will prevail over primary passions.
Okay, but the Democratic view.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets, let's say, strategically fascinating. Some Democrats are reportedly openly encouraging Mastriano to jump into the race.
Seriously, why would they do that?
Well, it echoes what happened in 2022. Remember Democrats meddling in some GOP primaries? Boosting candidates they thought would be easier to beat in the general election.
Right, Pied Piper strategy.
Exactly. It's that calculation again. They might see Mastriano as a weaker general election opponent compared to someone like Garrity.
And there's actually a quote that makes this crystal clear. Congressman Brendan Boyle, a Pennsylvania Democrat, texted Politico.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said, Mastriano was literally the single worst Republican candidate for governor in the nation in 2022. So I'm very much hoping he runs again.
Wow. Doesn't get much clearer than that, does it? They see him as their best path to keeping the governor's mansion, maybe even helping their own down-ballot candidates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A potential political gift from their perspective. So wrapping this up, what does it all really mean? We've seen this incredible tension, right, between a candidate who clearly resonates with a passionate base and a party establishment deeply worried about winning a general election. It's a real battle for the soul, or at least the strategy, of the party.
Yeah, and this deep dive really shows it's not just about one race in Pennsylvania. It's a snapshot of these bigger forces at play. How candidate selection, these internal party fights, the ghosts of past elections, how they all combine to potentially shift the balance of power in Congress and really define the political landscape, especially in these crucial swing states.
So as we leave you with this, here's something to think about. In today's really polarized environment, how do these internal party battles over who should run actually end up shaping not just specific election outcomes, but the whole direction and, frankly, the electability of a political movement? And ultimately, what does that mean for how we choose our representatives and maybe even how they govern once they get there? Lots to consider.